banned humans from space, so we emerged from Jupiter's core. The galactic arbitration chamber hung suspended in the void between stars, its crystalline walls refracting the light of distant suns into prismatic rainbows that danced across assembled delegates. 500 species had gathered to witness what many considered the most significant ruling in galactic history. High Arbiter Zexatul of the Valdorian hegemony stood at the central podium, his 6 arms spread wide in ceremonial judgment. The bioluminescent patches along his elongated skull pulsed in rhythm with his words, each flash synchronized with the universal translators embedded in every delegation's seating pod. By unanimous vote of the Galactic Arbitration Council, Zexathul's voice resonated through the chamber. Humanity of the Sol System is hereby classified as a Category 5 expansionist threat. Effective immediately, all human vessels are prohibited from leaving their home system. Any attempt to breach this quarantine will be met with immediate military intervention. The chamber erupted. Tentacled Mortarch delegates writhed in approval, their chemical signatures releasing pheromones of satisfaction. The crystalline helix sang in harmonic frequencies that registered as applause on the translation matrix. Even the normally stoic Korthak military observers, their reptilian faces usually impassive, allowed themselves subtle nods of agreement. In the human delegation booth, Ambassador Shingo Fukuda sat frozen, her knuckles white against the polished titanium of her chair's armrest. Beside her, military attaché General Marcus Webb's jaw worked silently, his weathered face betraying decades of combat experience in the Martian rebellions. "The evidence is overwhelming," Zexathul continued, his primary eyes fixed on the human booth, while his secondary organs tracked the reactions across the chamber. In the past 3 centuries, humanity has demonstrated an alarming pattern of rapid expansion, resource exploitation, and military aggression. The colony wars on Proxima Centauri, the terraforming disputes at Wolf 359, the unprovoked attack on the Kepler research station. Those were defensive actions. Fukuda's voice cut through the chamber as she activated her delegation's speaking frequency. Every human military action was in response to direct threats against our colonies. A ripple of disapproval flowed through the assembly. Several delegates activated their own frequencies, creating a cacophony of alien languages that the translation matrix struggled to process. Zexatul raised his upper arms, and silence fell. "Ambassador Fukuda, humanity's interpretation of defensive action has consistently resulted in the expansion of your territorial claims. The pattern is clear: provocation, escalation, conquest, colonization. The galaxy cannot permit this cycle to continue." Webb leaned forward, his voice carefully controlled. "High Arbiter, if I may. Humanity requests a formal review period. 30 days to present counter-evidence and—" "The decision is final," Zexathul interrupted. "Enforcement begins immediately. All human vessels currently beyond the Sol System heliopause have 72 hours to return home or face immediate detention." The chamber dissolved into chaos as delegates began filing out. The human booth remained isolated, a pocket of stunned silence in the growing void. Fukuda turned to Webb, her voice barely above a whisper. "Marcus, please tell me you have a contingency plan." Webb's grey eyes remained fixed on the departing alien delegations. "We always have a contingency plan, Shingo. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for it." 67. Light minutes from the sun. In the crushing depths of Jupiter's metallic hydrogen core, something stirred. The Erebus Station had been humanity's most classified military installation for over 2 centuries. Built during the early days of the Sol System's expansion, it existed in the theoretical space between physics and engineering impossibility. Its construction had taken 40 years, the lives of 8,000 workers, and technology that officially didn't exist. Commander Hannah Louise stood in the station's central observation deck, watching the swirling metallic currents of liquid hydrogen flow past the reinforced transparent aluminum windows. The station itself was a marvel of engineering, a spherical habitat nearly 2 kilometers in diameter, suspended in the planet's core by a complex array of electromagnetic field generators that kept it stable in the crushing gravitational maelstrom. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Commander Torres approached from the communications station, his voice tight with urgency. "Priority transmission from Earth Command. The Arbitration Council has issued their verdict." Louise didn't turn from the window. At 43, she had spent her entire career in the black programs, the missions that didn't exist in official records. Her dark hair was prematurely gray, and her brown eyes carried the weight of decisions that had never seen daylight. "How long?" she asked. 72 hours for all human vessels to return to Sol. Complete quarantine. Category 5 threat classification. Louise closed her eyes. She had expected this outcome for months. The political tensions, the growing fear among the galactic community, the whispered conversations in diplomatic circles. It had all been building to this moment. Status of the other deep installations? Torres consulted his tablet. Prometheus station at Saturn's core reports ready. Olympus at Uranus is at 90% operational. Neptune Poseidon station, still experiencing containment issues with the exotic matter generators. And our current complement? Erebus station, crew of 312. Full Marine Battalion, Engineering Corps, and... Torres hesitated. And the Tartarus project teams, all 47 of them. Louise finally turned from the window. The Tartarus project, humanity's most classified weapons program, buried so deep in the black budget that even most generals didn't know it existed. For 20 years, the best scientific minds in the Sol system had been working on technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. "Commander," Torres continued, "there's something else. Long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements. It looks like they're positioning enforcement assets at the heliopause." Louise walked to the central command station, where a holographic display showed the Sol system. Red markers indicated the positions of alien fleets, hundreds of ships forming a sphere around humanity's home. "How many?" "Conservative estimate, 12,000 vessels, representing 43 different species. This isn't just the hegemony, ma'am. This is everyone." Louise studied the display, her mind calculating odds and possibilities. The alien fleets outnumbered humanity's official military assets by nearly 50 to 1. Earth's surface fleet, the Mars Defense Force, the asteroid mining security vessels, all of it combined wouldn't last an hour against what was massing at the system's edge. But the aliens didn't know about the deep installations. They didn't know about Tartarus. They didn't know that humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. "Lieutenant Commander," she said quietly, "activate Protocol Omega. All stations, all assets. Tell them it's time." Torres's face went pale. Protocol Omega was the authorization for humanity's most extreme contingency plans. Once activated, there was no going back. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "I'm sure." Louise's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "The galaxy wanted to cage us. They're about to learn that some cages are meant to be broken from the inside." The alien fleet stretched across space like a living constellation, their vessels arranged in precise geometric formations that spoke of millennia of military coordination. At the center of the blockade, the hegemony's flagship Sovereign Mandate drifted in stately splendor, its crystalline hull refracting starlight into weapon-grade laser arrays. High Admiral Kethvar stood on the ship's command bridge, his forearms working in perfect synchronization as he coordinated the deployment of nearly 300 task forces. The Valdorian's bioluminescent patches pulsed in complex patterns, a visual language that his subordinates had learned to read like sheet music. "Status report." he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets for over 2 centuries. Commander Yilnax, a helix whose crystalline form resonated with harmonic frequencies, provided the update. All blockade positions confirmed. Long-range sensors show human fleet movements throughout the system, but nothing approaching the heliopause. Compliance appears to be voluntary. Kethva's secondary eyes focused on the tactical display. Voluntary compliance from humans? That seems uncharacteristic. Perhaps they recognize the futility of resistance, suggested Fleet Coordinator Mor Gesh, a Kortak whose reptilian features betrayed no emotion. Our combined fleet strength is overwhelming. Even the most aggressive human military doctrine would recognize this as an unwinnable scenario. The High Admiral's lower arms continued their work, while his upper ones clasped behind his back. Something felt wrong. In his 2 centuries of military service, he had learned to trust his instincts, and right now they were screaming warnings. "Increase scanning frequency," he ordered. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know about every human vessel larger than a maintenance pod." "Sir," Communications Officer Vexital interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the human colony ship New Horizon. They're requesting permission to return to Earth from the Proxima Centauri system." Kethvar's interest sharpened. The New Horizon was one of humanity's largest colony vessels, carrying over 50,000 settlers. If they were voluntarily abandoning their colonies, perhaps the humans truly had accepted their fate. "Grant them passage," he decided, "but maintain full escort. I want 3 task forces shadowing that vessel until it reaches Earth orbit." As the orders were transmitted, Kethva couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong with this scenario. Humans didn't surrender. They fought. They adapted. They found ways to turn disadvantage into victory. The fact that they were complying so readily with the quarantine made him more nervous than open rebellion would have. "Sir," Sensor Coordinator Thexqui spoke up, her Mortak tentacles writhing with concern. "I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures from the inner system. Very faint, but consistent with high-energy physics experiments." "Specify," Kethvar commanded. "The signatures are coming from the vicinity of the gas giants, but they're not matching any known human technology profiles. It's almost as if—" She paused, her tentacles coiling tighter, as if they're coming from inside the planets themselves. Kethva's bioluminescent patches flared brighter. "That's impossible. The pressure and temperature conditions inside gas giants would crush any known technology." "Yes, sir. That's what makes it so concerning." The High Admiral stared at the tactical display, his mind racing through possibilities. Could the humans have developed technology that could survive inside planetary cores? It seemed physically impossible, but then again, humans had a disturbing tendency to make the impossible routine. "Double the scanning intensity," he ordered, "and send a message to the Arbitration Council. Tell them we may need additional assets." As his orders were carried out, Kethva couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was about to remind the galaxy why they had been considered a threat in the first place. Deep within Jupiter's metallic core, the Erebus station hummed with activity. Every corridor echoed with the sound of boots on metal, voices calling out orders, and the distinctive whine of exotic matter generators spinning up to full power. Commander Louise stood in the Tartarus Project's primary laboratory, watching as Dr. Shingo Kim made final adjustments to what appeared to be a massive sphere of impossibly black material. The object was 3 meters in diameter and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating a disturbing visual effect that made the eye want to look away. "Status report, Doctor," Louise said. Dr. Kim looked up from her instruments, her Asian features drawn with exhaustion. She had been working for 36 hours straight, and it showed. "The quantum resonance chamber is stable. We've successfully created a localized space-time distortion field that should be undetectable to conventional sensors. And the delivery system. That's where it gets interesting. Kim activated a holographic display that showed a schematic of the device. The beauty of the Tartarus system is that it doesn't require traditional propulsion. Once activated, it exists in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, until observation collapses the wave function. Louise frowned. In terms I can understand, Doctor. Kim smiled grimly. We can place it anywhere in the galaxy instantly. The target won't know it's there until we choose to make it real. And the effectiveness? Conservative estimates suggest it will create a gravitational anomaly equivalent to a small black hole. Anything within a 50-kilometer radius will be compressed to the size of a marble. Louise nodded slowly. The Tartarus project had been designed as humanity's ultimate deterrent, a weapon so powerful that its mere existence would make other species think twice about threatening human interests. The irony wasn't lost on her that they were now preparing to use it in what might be humanity's last desperate gambit. How many can we deploy? We have 17 functioning units. Each one took us 6 months to construct. And the exotic matter requirements. Kim shook her head. These represent the absolute limits of our manufacturing capability. 17. Louise repeated. Against 12,000 enemy ships, it seemed like a drop in the ocean. But she knew that in warfare, it wasn't always about numbers. Sometimes it was about making the right statement at the right moment. Commander. Lieutenant Commander Torres approached, his face grim. We're receiving reports from the other deep stations. They're ready to proceed, but there's a problem. What kind of problem? The alien fleets aren't just maintaining a blockade. They're conducting deep space scans. Prometheus Station reports that they've detected focused sensor sweeps passing through Saturn's upper atmosphere. It's only a matter of time before they penetrate deep enough to find us. Louise considered this. The deep stations had been designed to be undetectable, but that was against normal scanning protocols. If the aliens were conducting intensive searches, using the combined sensor arrays of thousands of ships, how long do we have? Prometheus estimates maybe 18 hours before they're detected. Olympus at Uranus thinks they have maybe 12 hours. The exotic matter signatures are apparently harder to mask than we thought. Louise walked to the observation window, looking out at the swirling metallic hydrogen currents. She had hoped for more time, a chance to coordinate with Earth Command, maybe even an opportunity for a negotiated settlement. But the galaxy wasn't going to give them that luxury. Dr. Kim, she said without turning around. How quickly can we get the first Tartarus unit ready for deployment? It's ready now. We just need targeting coordinates. Louise nodded. The decision was made. She activated her command console and opened a communication channel to all deep stations. Attention all commands. This is Erebus Station. Initiate Operation Prometheus. All units are weapons-free. Show them what happens when you back Earth into a corner. She paused, knowing that her next words would be recorded in history, if humanity survived to write it. Gentlemen, ladies, fellow humans, it's time to remind the galaxy why they were afraid of us in the first place. The sovereign mandate had been the pride of the Valdorian fleet for over 3 centuries. Its crystalline hull had withstood the plasma storms of Kepler 442, the gravity wells of binary pulsars, and the coordinated assault of the Zephyrian insurgency. High Admiral Kethvar had complete confidence in his flagship's ability to survive any conventional weapon. Which was why the ship's sudden and complete disappearance came as such a shock to the blockade fleet. Commander Yilnax had been monitoring the sensor displays when the impossible happened. One moment, the sovereign mandate was there, a massive crystalline structure 3 kilometers long, hosting a crew of 12,000 and serving as the command center for the entire blockade operation. The next moment, there was nothing. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Nothing. Sensors are showing no debris, Yilnax reported, his harmonic voice carrying undertones of panic. No energy discharge, no explosion signature. The ship just ceased to exist. Fleet Coordinator Morgesh took temporary command of the blockade, his reptilian features betraying the first signs of emotion anyone had seen from him in decades. That's impossible. Ships don't just disappear. Sir, Sensor Coordinator Thexaqui's tentacles writhed in agitation. I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies at the location where the Sovereign Mandate was positioned. It's as if space-time itself has been, compressed. The implications hit the command staff like a physical blow. If the humans had weapons that could manipulate space-time, the entire strategic situation had just changed. Emergency transmission to all fleet commands, Morgesh ordered. Evasive maneuvers, random pattern dispersal. Do not maintain fixed positions. But the order came too late. Across the blockade formation, more ships began to disappear. The Helix battlecruiser Crystalline Harmony, gone. The Mortak Dreadnought, Tentacle of Wrath, gone. The Kortak destroyer squadron Scales of Justice, gone. Each disappearance was preceded by the same signature, a localized gravitational anomaly that compressed matter to the point of effective non-existence. The weapon seemed to appear from nowhere, strike without warning, and leave no trace except for the absence of what had been there moments before. In the space of 10 minutes, the blockade fleet lost 47 major vessels and over 300,000 personnel. The alien fleet's panic was immediate and absolute. What had been a coordinated blockade became a chaotic scramble as thousands of ships attempted to implement evasive maneuvers simultaneously. Collisions were avoided only by the sophisticated traffic control systems that had been developed over millennia of multi-species cooperation. But the humans weren't finished. From the depths of Saturn's core, Prometheus Station revealed itself. The facility was even larger than Erebus, a massive installation that had been constructed using the planet's own metallic hydrogen as building material. Its emergence sent shockwaves through Saturn's rings, creating visible disturbances that could be seen from millions of kilometers away. Commander Jackson. Hayes stood on Prometheus Station's command deck, watching as his facility's primary weapon systems came online. The installation wasn't just a hiding place, it was a fortress, equipped with technology that pushed the boundaries of human engineering. Status report, Hayes commanded. All systems nominal, replied Chief Engineer Maria Santos. The Helios Array is fully charged and ready for deployment. The Helios Array was humanity's second-generation space-based weapon system. Unlike the Tartarus devices, which worked by manipulating gravity, the Helios Array used concentrated stellar energy. The installation had been built around a contained microstar, a fusion reactor that could generate power levels equivalent to a small sun. Target selection? Hayes asked. We have clean shots on the primary staging areas. The aliens have clustered their command vessels in defensive formations. They're making it easy for us. Hayes nodded. The alien fleet's attempt to regroup had actually worked in humanity's favor. By concentrating their forces, they had created ideal targets for weapons designed to engage multiple opponents simultaneously. Fire when ready. The Helios Array discharged in a blinding flash of concentrated stellar energy. The beam was focused to a needlepoint precision, but its effects were anything but subtle. The energy struck the clustered alien vessels like the fist of an angry god, vaporizing armor, overloading shields, and creating a cascade of secondary explosions that rippled through the defensive formation. 73 alien vessels were destroyed in the first salvo. Another 150 were damaged beyond combat effectiveness. From Uranus, Olympus Station revealed itself in a similar fashion, its emergence creating gravitational waves that disrupted the planet's complex moon system. The station's weapon, a particle beam that could strip matter at the atomic level, carved through the alien fleet's outer perimeter like a knife through paper. Within 30 minutes, the blockade that had been intended to contain humanity had lost over 300 vessels. The remaining alien forces found themselves facing an enemy that had appeared from nowhere, wielding weapons that defied conventional understanding. The communication came simultaneously to every surviving alien vessel, every space station, every colony, and every governmental facility in the galaxy. The message was simple, direct, and delivered in the calm, measured tones of someone who held all the cards. Commander Hannah Louise appeared on screens across known space, her image transmitted from the depths of Jupiter's core. Behind her, the impossible architecture of Erebus Station provided a backdrop that spoke of technological capabilities far beyond what the galaxy had believed possible. To the members of the Galactic Arbitration Council and the forces currently deployed in the Sol system, she began. My name is Commander Hannah Louise, United Earth Deep Space Command. You have declared humanity a threat to galactic stability. You have attempted to quarantine our species. You have deployed 12,000 military vessels to enforce your will upon us. The image shifted to show the tactical display of the Sol system, with markers indicating the positions of both human and alien forces. The aliens were shocked to see that their secret deployment had been monitored in real time. What you failed to understand, Louise continued, is that humanity has been preparing for this moment for over 2 centuries. While you debated our fate in your chambers, we were building installations that exist beyond your ability to detect. While you planned our containment, we were developing weapons that transcend your understanding of physics. The display changed again, showing the locations of the deep space installations. Even the aliens' most advanced sensors had failed to detect the massive facilities hidden within the gas giants. You have 3 options, Louise said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. First, you can withdraw your forces and return to your home systems. The quarantine will be lifted, and humanity will resume its expansion according to our own timeline and priorities. The image focused on her face, and every being watching could see the steel in her eyes. Second, you can continue your blockade and attempt to contain us, in which case we will systematically destroy every military asset you have deployed. Our weapons are invisible to your sensors, our installations are beyond your reach, and our resolve is absolute. A pause. Throughout the galaxy, billions of beings held their breath. Third, you can escalate this conflict. You can call in additional fleets, deploy more advanced weapons, or attempt to assault our installations directly, in which case we will extend our operational parameters beyond the Sol system. The tactical display expanded to show the entire local galactic arm, with markers indicating the positions of major alien worlds and installations. We have been watching you for 2 centuries. We know the locations of your shipyards, your population centers, your strategic resources. We know which species depends on which trade routes, which governments are stable, and which are hanging by a thread. If you force us to defend ourselves, we will not limit our response to military targets. The implications were clear. Humanity was threatening to extend their conflict beyond the traditional boundaries of warfare. You have 24 hours to decide, Louise concluded. Choose wisely. The galaxy is larger than your fears, and humanity's place in it is not subject to your approval. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The Galactic Arbitration Council convened in emergency session within hours of the ultimatum. The chamber that had been filled with confident discussion about humanity's fate now buzzed with panic and desperate strategizing. High Arbiter Zek Satul stood at the central podium, his bioluminescent patches flickering in patterns that reflected his inner turmoil. Around him, the assembled delegates argued in dozens of languages, their translation matrices struggling to keep up with the rapid-fire exchanges. "Order! Order!" Zexathul's voice boomed through the chamber. "We will address this crisis with the dignity and deliberation that has characterized this body for millennia." But dignity and deliberation seemed inadequate when faced with the reality of humanity's technological capabilities. The weapons that had appeared from nowhere, the installations that had been hidden for centuries, the casual threat to extend warfare beyond military targets, it painted a picture of a species that had been preparing for galactic conflict while pretending to be constrained by interstellar law. Coordinator Velnash of the Mortak delegation was the first to speak. "The humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our worst projections. Their weapons appear to manipulate fundamental forces of nature. Their installations exist in environments that should be impossible to occupy. We must consider the possibility that continuing this conflict would result in casualties on a scale we cannot accept." "Are you suggesting we capitulate to their demands?" asked Senator Crixitol of the Helix Confederation. "If we allow them to intimidate us with superior firepower, what precedent does that set for future conflicts?" "The precedent," replied Admiral Torgash of the Kortak Military Council, "is that species with superior technology dictate terms to those without. This is not a new concept in galactic politics." Zexathul raised his arms for silence. "The question before us is not whether humanity possesses superior weapons. They have demonstrated that conclusively. The question is whether we can accept their terms while maintaining the stability of galactic civilization." The debate that followed was intense but brief. The reality of the situation was undeniable. Humanity had prepared for this conflict in ways that no one had imagined possible. Their weapons were beyond current understanding. Their installations were undetectable until revealed, and their strategic planning had accounted for scenarios that the galaxy's best military minds had never considered. More importantly, they had demonstrated a willingness to extend conflict beyond traditional boundaries. The threat to target civilian installations, trade routes, and population centers was not an idle one. It was a promise backed by demonstrated capability. "We will vote," Zexatul announced. "All in favor of accepting the human terms and lifting the quarantine?" The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 437 delegates voted to accept humanity's ultimatum. Only 63 voted to continue the conflict. The alien fleet's withdrawal from the Sol system was a study in organized retreat. What had taken weeks to assemble was dismantled in a matter of hours as thousands of vessels initiated jump sequences that would take them back to their home systems. High Admiral Kethvar, now commanding the fleet from the battlecruiser Crystalline Resolve, following the destruction of his flagship, supervised the withdrawal with the professionalism that had made him one of the galaxy's most respected military commanders. But privately, he was reassessing everything he thought he knew about humanity. "Final casualty reports," he requested. Commander Yilnax, his harmonic voice subdued, provided the grim statistics. 347 vessels destroyed or missing. Estimated personnel losses, 432,000. No human casualties reported. Kethvar's bioluminescent patches dimmed. In his 2 centuries of military service, he had never seen a more one-sided engagement. The humans had demonstrated technological superiority that bordered on the incomprehensible, and they had done it while suffering 0 losses. "What's our intelligence assessment of their capabilities?" he asked. "Preliminary analysis suggests they have been developing advanced weapons technology for at least 2 centuries. Yilnax replied. "The installations we detected appear to be permanent facilities, not temporary deployments. They were built to last, which suggests long-term strategic planning. And their threat to extend operations beyond the Sol system? Given their demonstrated capabilities, we have to assume they can make good on that threat. The weapons that destroyed our vessels appeared from nowhere and struck without warning. If they can deploy similar weapons against our home systems... Kethva didn't need to hear the rest. The implications were clear. Humanity had not just won this confrontation, they had redefined the strategic balance of the galaxy. As the last alien vessels disappeared into hyperspace, the Sol system returned to human control. But the galaxy had been forever changed. Humanity was no longer a species to be contained or controlled. They were now a power to be respected and feared. 3 months after the crisis, Ambassador Shingo Fukuda stood in the newly constructed Galactic Relations Center in Earth orbit. The facility had been built to serve as humanity's primary diplomatic interface with the galaxy, but it also contained features that were unmistakably military in nature. The center's conference room was filled with representatives from every major galactic government. They had come not to dictate terms to humanity, but to negotiate trade agreements, territorial boundaries, and mutual defense pacts. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone was scrambling to adapt. The hegemony wishes to discuss mining rights in the Kepler 442 system, announced Delegate Vexitol, his bioluminescent patches flickering with what Fukuda had learned to recognize as nervous energy. And the Confederation is interested in establishing joint research facilities, added Senator Crixital of the Helix. We believe that collaborative development of advanced technologies would benefit all parties. Fukuda smiled diplomatically. The same species that had voted to quarantine humanity were now eager to establish partnerships. It was a reminder that in galactic politics, as in all politics, there were no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. Humanity is open to discussing mutually beneficial arrangements, she replied. However, we will be establishing our own terms for engagement. The days of external oversight of human activities are over. The alien delegates exchanged glances. They had hoped for a more conciliatory tone, but they had no choice but to accept humanity's new assertiveness. The alternative was another demonstration of human military capabilities, and no one wanted to experience that again. General Webb, now serving as Earth's military liaison to the galactic community, provided the framework for humanity's new approach. "We're not interested in conquest or domination," he stated, "but we will not tolerate interference in our expansion or development. The galaxy is large enough for all of us, as long as everyone respects everyone else's sovereignty." The negotiations that followed established a new framework for galactic relations. Humanity would continue its expansion, but within agreed-upon boundaries. Trade routes would be established, but with human security guarantees. Research collaboration would be pursued, but with human oversight of any projects involving advanced weapons technology. Most importantly, the Arbitration Council would be restructured to include human representation with veto power over any decisions affecting human interests. Commander Hannah Louise stood in the observation deck of Erebus Station, watching Jupiter's storm swirl around the facility's camouflaged exterior. The station had returned to its hidden status, but it remained fully operational, its weapons systems ready to respond to any threat to human interests. "Status report," she requested. Lieutenant Commander Torres, now promoted to serve as her permanent second-in-command, provided the update. "All deep stations remain operational. Prometheus, Olympus, and Poseidon report full readiness. The Tartarus project has been expanded. We now have 43 functional units positioned throughout the system." "And beyond the system?" Torres smiled. "The Icarus project is proceeding on schedule. We should have our first extrasolar installation operational within 18 months. Louise nodded. The Icarus project was humanity's next step. Deep space installations that would extend their reach beyond the Sol system. Hidden within the cores of gas giants in nearby systems, these facilities would serve as both early warning systems and strategic weapon platforms. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity's power, but Louise knew that respect was only as strong as the force that backed it. The deep installations would remain hidden, watching, waiting, ready to remind the galaxy of the price of threatening human interests. "Ma'am," Torres continued, "we've received a communication from Earth Command. They're requesting recommendations for the next phase of expansion." Louise turned from the window, her expression thoughtful. "Tell them we recommend patience. Let the galaxy adjust to the new reality. Give them time to understand that humanity's place among the stars is not negotiable." She paused, looking out at the swirling chaos of Jupiter's atmosphere. "But keep the weapons ready. The galaxy has a short memory, and fear fades with time. We need to be ready to remind them why they were afraid in the first place." As the station continued its eternal orbit within the gas giant's core, humanity's watchers maintained their vigilance. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and dangers in equal measure, but humanity had claimed its place among the stars, and no force in the universe would take it away. The deep installations remained hidden, their weapons silent but ready. And in the depths of space, where the light of distant suns barely penetrated the darkness, humanity's guardians stood watch over the future of their species. The galaxy had learned to respect human power. Now it would learn to live with the consequences of that respect. End of story. Author's note. This story explores themes of technological superiority, strategic planning, and the price of survival in a hostile universe. Humanity's response to galactic containment demonstrates that sometimes the most effective weapon is not the one that destroys, but the one that changes the fundamental assumptions of conflict itself.